Hello, everyone. Very warm welcome to our today's webinar from Gefen, Game-Changing Solutions for Retail Displays. I'm very pleased to have Wojciech from Gefen here today. My name is Georg, or for the English speaking, of course, George Wiebe. I'm responsible at Exertis for the large image solutions, especially LED and large tile video walls. So the topic we have here today is exactly fitting into my field of the job. Yeah, I'm really excited of what we'll see today, two brand new products from Gefen that can do any job in the retail area. If you have any questions during our today's presentation, please feel free to ask them at any time in the questions tab. So we will answer them immediately. So we have also some sort of interaction, and we will also have some time afterwards to do the question if you have any. So yeah, Wojciech, please take over, and yeah, let's see what you have.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that most of you know me already. For those who do not, my name is Wojciech Dworaczek. In English, that would be Wojciech as well, unfortunately. And I'm responsible for Gefen sales in EMEA region. And today I have a pleasure to run this presentation for you regarding two new products for retail applications. And as Georg mentioned, please do not hesitate to ask any questions you may have during the presentation. I'm more than happy to have some interactivity between us. And of course, we will talk about the products, we'll talk about the solution, we'll talk about applications that it can be used for. And also I have a live unit over here. So during the presentation or after I'm done with the theoretical part, we will go into showing you how you can control the unit, how you can talk to the unit, and what kind of information you can get from the unit, because the unit seems like a regular splitter, but it's way more advanced than that. So let's start with the presentation. And again, please don't hesitate to ask any questions you may have during the presentation itself. Okay, so I hope and I think that you know Gefen brand. We are on the market for more than 20 years, delivering solutions for many markets, but of course digital signage is definitely one of them. So this vertical market became very important lately for us, and you're gonna see the product that we developed especially for this part of our industry. And basically we did that because we had a great project in US with that, and now we are introducing this product also for the rest of the world. And a little bit of history, just one slide to get you the idea for those who do not know as well. And by us I mean Gefen, of course. We've been on the market since early 1990s. And during those years that we are on the market, usually we were, if not first, we were one of the first adopters of most of the technologies in the AV industry. So starting with regular extenders, KVM extenders, devices for EDID management, we were very early adopter of HD-based technology. We were, I think, one of the two first companies that introduced AV over IP products, which is still developed as a main part of our portfolio, and so on. During the years, we tried to be on the forefront of the digital signal distribution industry. And of course, you can find us, or you can use our products, and they are being used in almost, if not every of the vertical markets. So of course, with broadcast and post-production, mainly with fiber optic extenders and KVM solutions. We're going to talk a lot about retail and digital signage during this presentation. So of course, this is one of the markets that we are present in. We are equipping large stadiums and venues, event venues for different sports. Most, if not all, of the stadiums for NFL in United States are equipped with our products. We are present in governmental, aerospace, so we have a lot of products in air traffic control towers, for example, of course, mainly fiber optic extenders. The same with KVM functionality for oil exploration and any other industry, but actually we had nice projects with this area. And which is most probably interesting for you. Of course, corporate, hospitality, and education. This is the market for all the conference rooms, meetings rooms. So of course we are present there. Medical, this is also a large market for us, both with fiber optic extenders and AV over IP. And of course, entertainment like casinos, gamings. If you have been to Las Vegas, many casinos, including Stratosphere, for example, are equipped with our products. So if you are thinking about the Gefen brand and you would like to get some kind of case studies to convince your customer that Gefen was present in this market, in this vertical market, and already has some success there, I think we can provide quite nice list of installations, as well as we can provide quite large list of very well-known companies that we are cooperating with and that trusted us in terms of our solutions. And as you see, not only from the corporate environment, but also governmental and others, industry, like even the most advanced ones with healthcare. And as you know, in healthcare, there is no place for any kind of poor quality solution, let's call it this way. So definitely we can provide you good quality products for many of the vertical markets that you can face on the in the real world applications. Okay, but let's talk about this product. Let's talk about what is the core of today's presentation. So as you may know, the TV walls in this retail environment have evolved during the years. I mean, still they are main selling, let's say, argument for the customer when they walk into the store and they can compare different screens with quality of the picture, with size, with colors, and so on. However, for the owners of the stores, it became also an opportunity to sell advertisement space. So it's not only to sell the TV itself, but also there is a possibility to sell the time and the space on the TV sets to sell advertising or any other important content that TV shop owner would like to deliver. So yeah, that's the situation, right? You walk into the store, you see many screens, most of them or some of them that are maybe playing some specialized content from the screen manufacturer to show its features. However, many of the screens may be just showing some regular terrestrial TV or any other source that is not really bringing any additional value to the shop owner or even the customer. So we've tried to develop product that will change that. So we wanted to bring the lowest cost of ownership. So it means that we try to make it as easy to install as possible. Because as we know, in those kind of shops, of course, we have a crew that is capable of selling those TVs. They know some of the technical parameters. They know some of the technology behind it, but probably they are not as skilled to install some high quality or high advanced level of product like products for signal management. So we wanted to make it simple. So our product was supposed to be plug and play. You just take the unit, connect it to the screens with the HDMI cable, connect it to the power, and maybe connect it to the local network for control and monitoring, and that's it. No configuration needed, no other steps required to make it run. On the other hand, because we wanted to provide the TV shop owner possibility to prove that the advertisement was really on the screen for the agreed amount of time, we had to provide real-time monitoring of HDMI ports. So with our splitter, you can see in real time if the screen is on, if the content is on, what kind of resolution is there, and so on. So all the information about the screen is there. If there is a problem with the screen, if there is a, I don't know, power down or somebody disconnected the cable, maybe the TV was sold, that was the last piece, it was taken off the shelf, we can get this information and we can inform the shop crew to install some other screen over there because the customer paid for the advertisement on that amount of screen. And of course, it's easy to control because it's all over IP. So you just connect one cable and then daisy chain the units for easy control and maintenance. We will talk about the topology of the connections later on, but this is just a preview of the features. Again, since we are talking about semi-professional environment, let's call it, and people who are connecting those screens, sometimes they don't know about technicalities. We had to provide possibility to mix different kind of screens, and still there are screens with full HD resolution that can be on the display to sell. So our product, again, to make it fully plug and play, is able to scale down the resolution to 1080p if you have a mixed screen scenario. As you know, with regular splitters, if there is a different resolution on different screens connected to the splitter, you would have to lower the resolution for the entire installation, right? To make it 1080p, for example, if there are 1080p screens involved. With our product, you don't have to do it. Again, we will mention that feature also later on. And what is most important for that kind of application is that the customer pays for the advertisement, right? The customer for the TV shop, not the people who are buying the TVs, but the ones that are buying the advertisement. So they are paying for the time and for the advertisement space. So to charge them for that, you need to provide something called proof of execution, which means that you have to be able to prove that at any given moment during the time that you agreed, the content was on the displays, how many displays there were, and that the content in fact was on those screens. So how to do it in that kind of environment where the customers are approaching, and you know how it looks like. Whenever there is some kind of screen, whenever there are people involved, everyone wants to press a button, right? Everyone wants to change something. Everyone wants to take the remote and play with the screen, which is obvious because that's why they come to the shop. They want to have some live, let's say, interactivity with the screen to see if it fits their needs. However, from the TV shop owner point of view, they need to make sure that they provided the amount of advertisement time that they agreed with their customer. So what our units do is that using CEC, and CEC is Consumer Electronic Channel, which is one of the protocol included in HDMI connection that allows the commands to be sent from the source to the screen and vice versa. Using this technology, our product makes sure that every time that somebody changes something on the screen, it will be reverted to the original state, which means that if customer takes a remote and they change the input to terrestrial TV or change to HDMI number 2 or any other input, our product using CEC will detect that and will revert to HDMI port that it's connected to. The same story with switching off the screen, for example. So whenever customer approaches, switches off the screen, our product again detects that during using CEC and will go back to the power on state. So I'm sure that you faced CEC before, usually in your maybe TV at home. Whenever you switch on your PlayStation, for example, there is some magical in brackets way that TV screen switches on as well. This is with CEC, and not only switches on, but also switches to the HDMI port that your PlayStation or any other device is connected to. So this is actually using CEC. And one remark here about CEC itself, as said, is a standard. It's some kind of, it's a protocol that is built in or included in HDMI specification. But many manufacturers of the screens and source devices like Blu-ray players, DVD players, amplifiers, or something like that, they use different names for that depending on the brand. So for example, I don't know, Sony has, I think, Bravia Link, Sharp has Aquos Link, Samsung has any Smart Link, whatever the name is, it's still about CEC. So if only you see that kind of name or that kind of protocol mentioned in the specification, you can immediately think, okay, that's CEC, so it will easily work with our product. And definitely those basic commands will be included. And the second thing, on the input side, there is also some kind of redundancy, but let's talk about it a little bit later on after we see the short video over here. I hope that we're gonna have the quality that will allow you to see the details. So what is the product line itself? So we designed 2 units that were needed for that kind of application. and let's talk about them a little bit now. So first of all, we have 2x8 unit, which I have live over here working. My screen is actually connected through that. So we will talk about this unit a little bit more in details as well. And 1x8, which I have over here to show you its inputs, outputs, and so on. We mentioned BrightSign here because, of course, in this particular project, the sources were BrightSign players. And it's very good for this application or this situation over here, because as you probably know, COMM-TEC or Exertis, sorry, is also BrightSign distributor. So you can build complete package, and I'm sure that Georg will be more than happy to use also the screens that he is selling. So definitely you can get perfect bundle and create that kind of solution for the customer. So let's talk about the 2x8. So let's go with all the arrows and all the buttons. Let's go back. Yeah. So what we have there, of course, it's 2x8. So it's 2 inputs by 8 outputs. And this is not a matrix. It's a splitter with a switch in the front. So all the outputs will always output the same content. It will be either the input number 1 or input number 2. So 2x8. On top of that, we have a test pattern generator built in the unit. So even if you are on the installation site and you are setting the things up, you don't need to have any source. The splitter itself can act as a source for a regular test pattern of color bars. So you can test the installation, you can see some picture on the screen, and before even you have the players set up. And of course, we can switch between those inputs using either the push button. We can use, of course, some IP commands. We can use automatic switching as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. On the bottom of the unit, of course, we have a power port for 5-volt power supply. Oh, excuse me. We have a USB connector for firmware update. There is also a web interface, but the web interface is very simple, only allowing you to update firmware. We talk to the unit through telnet commands, through IP commands, so we will talk about it, and I will show you that later on. And as you see, we have 2 Ethernet ports. Why 2 of them? For the daisy chaining purposes that I mentioned at the beginning. So each of the unit to be able to monitor the status and to get the feedback from the unit about this screens connected and about the units or about the status of the screens, we need to have Ethernet connection. So to not use one network port in the network switch for each of the unit, because we can have quite large installation and quite many of them in one place, we have 2 ports. So you go from one to the network switch and then just connect one to another to create this kind of daisy chain. It's only for control, so there is no huge amount of data, so we don't have to worry about the network performance, let's say, because let's remember that all the content is sent through HDMI cables, through HDMI connection, not IP. So this is only for the control, for cascading the units one to another. And the same story on the 1x8, even simpler unit, because just 1 input, of course, and the same story, 8 outputs with test pattern generator, that you can recall, of course, from the button, or you can, of course, use IP commands to enable the test pattern generator. And the same story on the control side and power side. So again, 5-volt power, USB for firmware update, and 2 Ethernet ports for the daisy chaining. And now we're gonna see this short video. How does it work? I think my explanation was hopefully quite straightforward, but let's see how it works in the real life. And then I'm going to pause at one moment when we're going to talk about 2x8 unit to explain the auto switching function as well. So let's see that. I will pause from time to time to explain more the content that we are seeing. First problem, as I mentioned, customer approaches the screen, takes the remote or uses the push buttons on the screen and turns off the screen. So we're going to see our small installation in our test lab with different screens connected to our sources. And this is the scenario number 1. As you see, there is a mix of screens. One is 1080p, the rest of them is Ultra HD. We take the remote, we switch on switch off the screen, and after the unit discovers that, it will switch on the screen automatically again. So this is, let's say, the safety feature number one. Then we have another scenario that customer approaches, plays with the screen, changes the input, for example. So you're going to see that we are connected now to input, I think, number 3 or whatever the number is. Yeah, number 3. We're going to change to different input. But the unit immediately noticed that and will switch on input number 3 again. So the screen goes back to the initial state. And then we have, let me pause for a second, and then we have this 2x8 feature explained. So why we came up with 2x8 product. As I mentioned, the most important in this solution is that we have content on the screens all the time. So here, those two features that you saw was, you may say, safety on the output side, right? Whatever the customer does with the screens, with the TV sets, we can revert to original state. However, we needed some safety feature also on the input side. So we came up with the redundancy. That's why we have two inputs. So one input, number 1, is, let's say, our main input, and then input number 2 is so-called failback or spare input, spare source in case something happens with input number 1. So whenever our 2x8 unit discovers that there is something wrong with input number 1, it will switch automatically to input number 2 to provide the content to the screens. We can define what is the time that the unit waits for the content to come back. Maybe there is some kind of short-term issue with the input, or maybe there is some kind of issue with the cable. Somebody moved the cable and the content was immediately back on. So we can specify, let's say, 2-3 seconds of waiting time until the unit switches to input number 2. So let's see that scenario for a second, and then I'm going to pause again in the middle to explain you what happens when the content goes back again. So the same story, we have the same screens, we have our small setup. As you see, we have a bright sign player, we have a 2x8 unit with 2 inputs over here, and we have 1x8 connected to the screens. So we are doing this kind of daisy chaining to show you features of both products. And now the scenario is that input number 1 fails. So we will simulate that with unplugging the content. As you see, the unit discovered that immediately. And after this waiting time, it switched back or switched to fallback source number 2. And this content goes to the screens. And now we're going to simulate the situation that the content on input number 1 goes back. So for example, the shop crew was informed that something is wrong with input number 1. They fix it, and the content is back on. So we're going to replug the plug into the input number 1. And now, important thing, we can specify again the waiting time between the moment that the content appears and the moment that the unit makes the switch back again to input number 1. Why did we decide to do it? The reason is that if you have a bright sign, for example, or bright sign player, for example, after the power is restored, there is a welcome screen with bright sign logo with all the information about the products, the serial number, so-called booting procedure, right? It takes about 30 seconds between the power is back on and the real content is being displayed. So we can specify the waiting time, how long the unit should wait between the sync is discovered or detected on input number 1 and when the switch is made. We can also specify the way that we will wait, for example, for Ultra HD content, because as you know, the boot up screen usually is some kind of low resolution. It's like 640 by 480, any kind of resolution, very low one, to make sure that any kind of screen that is connected is able to display that. So we can specify, okay, the unit should wait for Ultra HD content. Once this content is discovered on the input, the switch is going to be made. So now we switched back to source number 1, as you see, automatically, because it was rediscovered on the input number 1, and we made the switch. So this is the redundancy of the input side as well. Yeah, so that was the scenario, that was the product, those were the features, and of course the main case study that we want to discuss today is we call it, it's major retailer, but of course I can share with you that this is Walmart. As you know, in States, Walmart is one of the largest, if not, I think the largest retailer actually. And we equipped until now more than 3,000 locations, and up to 5,000 locations are considered. So this is still ongoing. We are still equipping the stores with this solution. And this is already the second project that we did with them. Previous one, I think like 4 years ago, was with regular splitters. So we made regular installation with the previous generation of splitters, also toolbox ones, but the one with 300 megahertz signal. One thing I didn't mention, and I probably should have, is that those units, you can tell it by the part number, as you see, GTB UHD 600. UHD 600 means that this is a unit supporting 600 megahertz signal, which equals to 18 gigabits per second, which tells us that this is HDMI 2.0 signal. That means that it can handle Ultra HD resolution with 60 Hz with 444 chroma subsampling, so full HDMI 2.0 stream. And as you see, the installation itself, or the part number list, was quite simple. We just used those two products. Usually it was one 2x8, obviously, because we had this redundancy on the input side. And then there were a couple of 1x8s, depending on the store, depending on the number of screens they needed, and different kind of cables and Cat5 connections between the units to create the full installation. And this is more or less the topology. So I'm sure that you can get it by now that we used two BrightSign players, we used Ethernet switch, we used 2x8 as a primary unit, and then one of the outputs were used to connect another 1x8 splitters, and another, and another, and another. So basically there is no limitation. We do reclocking of the signal on the input side, of course. Basically, as I said, you can use as many steps as you wish. Of course, it's always a little bit better to go from first splitter to as many branches as you need and then distribute it to the screens. But if there is no other way because of the topology of the store or the scenario that you are facing, of course, that kind of solution with daisy chaining is also possible. And here on this slide, you also see the 1080p sign over here, which tells you that definitely there was a mix of 1080p screens and Ultra HD screens, and our splitters were scaling on the output side. And as mentioned, the important part of this is that we can monitor each unit, we can monitor each screen, and you can pull this information from the unit and you can use it in some kind of control management service or any other third-party software, or you can build your own software and just fetch the information from the unit. And for example, every 30 seconds, you can ask the unit about the status. You can take the status, you can, let's say, put it in some CSV file, for example, and then provide it as a proof of execution for the end user. So let's talk about now. Oh, maybe there are some questions. I don't know, because I don't have this question sign over here. So are there any questions by now, or should we continue with the, let's say, practical part now?
No questions in the question tab yet. So everything good, I think.
So either I'm good explainer, or I don't, or people don't get anything at all. Okay, I hope the first one. Okay, guys. So let me check. Let me change now to one of the other. So let me show you first of all. Let's start with something that we should have started at the beginning. Let me just close this for a second. So let's take Synergy. Why? Because what we have to do, of course, we should find the unit on the network. When you connect the unit, when you connect it to the local network, what we are using to find the unit? Synergy. For those who do not know this software, this is a free software that you can download from our website, and you can use it to discover the units in the local network. So we know already the IP address. We know it was given by DHCP. Since we know the IP address, let's just use it and go to the web interface. As I said, this is a very simple web interface. Even that is, I think, too much said. As you see, it only serves for the firmware update. So you just choose the file, update, and that's it. The whole control is done through Telnet. So Telnet is a built-in tool in Windows. Of course, you can use some control systems that are talking to the units using Telnet commands. So when you have the IP address, when you know the IP address, you just type open, you just put in IP address. Sorry, my fingers are clumsy here. And you are connected to the unit. And of course, we can provide you, and per request, the whole API. This is the Excel file with all the command for the controlling the unit. You can get all the commands from here, and you can use it to control the product. So very simple, with all the syntax over here, with all the information that you can get. And using this, you can fetch the information, and you can get pretty much any kind of info about the status of the unit, about the input status, output status, as you see, hot plug detect, color space, resolution. So you can really provide very comprehensive statement for the customer, what was the status of the unit at any given moment of the time. You can, as I said, you can ask the units for, like, I don't know, 15 seconds, every 30 seconds, whatever the time you want to use for the status. So when this unit is connected, you can type in, for example, help, and you will also get all the commands that are supported by the units. Then if you type it help and name of the command, you will get the full information about this command. What is the syntax, what are the input parameters, and what kind of output parameters you get from that. Of course, let's see what the unit tells us about my setup over here. So I will use the command status. And as you see, I get all the information about the unit. So first of all, what I get is, of course, the IP settings, so we know which unit we are talking about. We get the MAC address, which is, of course, unique, and you can consider this as a serial number in brackets. You get basic information like firmware number, and then you see which source is connected, what is the routing mode. The routing mode 8 means it's automatic. So in case there is a failure of the input, it will switch automatically to the output number, to the input number 2. We see if the test pattern is on, and so on. I'm not going to go through all those commands because, you know, it's not the point now. However, you can also see what kind of resolution is there. That's good because this is actually native resolution of my screen, and I achieved that by using EDID mode 7, which is the external EDID. So the unit takes the EDID from the output from my screen and passes that to my computer. You can also tell that because when I go here to EDID editor, you can see my Acer screen over here. I can view EDID. For those who didn't see Synergy tool now, it's a good chance for you to see that we can get all the information about EDID of the screen, about the supported resolution. Very handy tool, even if you are not using any of our products. I always encourage people to just install that because you never know when it may be needed. And most important for our purposes in terms of monitoring is this over here. So as you see, for each individual output, we see the status. So output mode for all the output, H means it's HDMI signal. If I would have some kind of pure computer screen connected, it will tell you D, which means DVI. So it can also distinguish what kind of EDID we talk about. As you see, hot plug detect, that means that only one screen is connected because we have only one screen with high status and all the remaining ones with low status, which means that only output, sorry, number one, sorry, is the one that is my screen is connected to. And all the other parameters like HDCP, resolution, and so on is here. So you can definitely take this information, fetch it, and then process it in some way, or even put it as it is into CSV file and just use it as a proof of execution, also including the Ethernet connection state. As you see, port number 1 is high, port number 2 is low. Let me show you the unit. I don't know if you can see that or not, but let me check. Yeah, I will just see my webcam. So yeah, it works. It has one output to my screen, one input from my computer, Ethernet connection, power, and it's playing the content for this presentation actually. So we can definitely say it works, and it works quite okay. Okay, let's see. So all the information can be, of course, you can of course get from our website. You can get from us. If you need any kind of additional info, we can provide you, of course, this API comment file. If any other questions might pop up now, or you will think about it after the presentation, just let us know. Please address the guys at COMM-TEC or Exertis, or address me directly, since most of you, I hope, know me and have my contact details. If not, please go to Exertis guys, and they will help you and they will ask me about it. I don't know if there are any questions right now, or if everything is clear. Georg, how are we doing?
Great, thank you. Yeah, also from my side, at this point, thank you for the great explanation and letting us know about the new solutions. And of course, please provide us with all the requests you have, and of course also if you need display fitting to these solutions, we can also provide you with quotes for all this and yeah, everything you need. So
as far as I know, also Exertis has a demo set, of course, of those units as well. So if you would have a customer and this customer would like to see it live or would like to test it, please contact them for that. If by any reason this unit is somewhere already on some demo, as you see, I have a demo set as well. We can also try to arrange shipping of this unit for you as a demo set. So we definitely would like you to take advantage of the fact that you can get this full bundle from Exertis. And I'm very sure that in all the countries that you are coming from, there are electronic shops like that. You can try to address them. You can try to find out if they would be interested in seeing that solution. You can not only, by the way, talking about case studies, Walmart was the main one that we equipped, but also this product is already present in Best Buy, is also present at Costco, and we are talking to some other retailers in States as well. So if any kind of case study or reference is needed, we will be more than happy to share that as well. So when you approach your customer from that market, you can immediately tell them, yeah, this solution is already deployed. It's not something that we just started. In terms of availability, because this is one of very hot topic these days, we have them on stock. I think more than 500 of each 2x8 and 1x8 currently in stock. So definitely, if there is a project for that unit, it's not that you would have to wait for a couple of months for delivery. So I think we are good to go and we are ready to deploy that solution in the market.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, that's all from my side. Thank you very much. Again, if you have some questions later on, please send us email. And thank you for attending. Thank you for joining, and thank you for your time. See you next time.
Also from my side, then thank you very much, and see you next time. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.